Hello everyone, my name is Jeffrey Lee, and this is Fur Trades and Human Civilizations, episode 13. We will continue talking about my book, exploring fur trades and its effect on human civilizations. First, today we're going to be going over section 4.2, and the first half of 4.3, where we talk about other important goods that are traded, specifically sandalwood and silk. So sandalwood is a small evergreen tree approximately 8 to 15 meters tall, originally native to the Malay Peninsula. It later spread via sea routes to India, Australia, and islands in the Pacific Ocean, and the wood of this tree is fragrant and durable and has been used in many early cultures worldwide for many regions, including religious reasons. The rise of the sandalwood trade was driven by the British trade strategies and a strong demand in the Chinese market. During the Qing dynasty from the late 7th century to early 19th century, spanning the reigns of Kangxi, Qianlong, Jiaqing, and Daoguang emperors, China's flourishing wood raft industry created a vast market for imported precious woods like sandalwood. Captain Cook's third voyage led to the discovery of Hawaii, quickly establishing it as a renowned supply station and transit point for the fur trade. Sandalwood grew abundantly in Hawaii, primarily in the low-altitude regions of the islands. Before European colonizers discovered Hawaii, the indigenous people, Kanaka Maoli, already used sandalwood for spices, medicines, and religious ceremonies. The earliest recorded sandalwood trade from Hawaii occurred in 1791 when the American fur trading ship Grace transported over 30 tons of Hawaiian sandalwood to Guangzhou for sale. Between 1804 and 1810, American merchants sold 11,500 dan of sandalwood in Guangzhou, averaging 1,400 dan per year. In the War of 1812 between Britain and the United States, the mutual attacks on British and American ships greatly affected the Pacific trade of furs, sandalwood, and other goods. In the 12 months from 1812 to 1813, Hawaii exported 19,036 dan of sandalwood to Guangzhou. However, from 1813 to 1815, Hawaii only exported 1,100 dan of sandalwood to Guangzhou. The years 1816 to 1818 marked the first peak of the Hawaiian sandalwood trade, and during the 12 months from 1817 to 1818, American merchants sold 15,825 dan of sandalwood in Guangzhou. After King Kamehameha I commanded all men to climb the mountains and cut down sandalwood, several issues arose. On one hand, farmland was left untended and became extensively barren, leading to a food shortage. On the other hand, excessive logging spared no ceilings, threatening the sustainability of sandalwood resources. The market saturation and declining quality led to a sharp drop in sandalwood prices, and by 1831, the price of Hawaiian sandalwood in Guangzhou had fallen below the purchase price in Hawaii, making the trade unprofitable after accounting for shipping costs. The nearly 30 years of sandalwood trade brought Hawaii approximately $3 million, but most of this wealth was extravagantly squandered by the king and chiefs. The sandalwood trade had a profound impact on Hawaii's economy and society. First, the enormous wealth from the sandalwood trade greatly improved the lifestyle and attitudes of the upper ruling class. During this period, private ownership rapidly developed, with the elite hoarding wealth and appropriating public resources. Land became privatized by the elites, and common Hawaiians did not benefit from the sandalwood trade. Instead, they became enslaved, suffering from hunger and cold under harsh living conditions, and severe social inequality ensued. Second, the agricultural structure changed. Hawaii, drawn into global trade, gradually lost its economic independence. Due to private land ownership and trade demands, the self-sufficient primitive agriculture changed to trade-oriented economic agriculture. Large areas of land were used to grow grain and vegetables for sale to passing ships, and even for export to places like Alaska and Oregon along the Pacific coast. After 1835, large plantations for sugarcane, coffee, and pineapples developed, creating demand for labor and trade dependency. Finally, the heavy reliance on trade with Westerners weakening the power of the Hawaiian kings, while the power, status, and influence of Westerners and the chiefly nobles rose, gradually taking control of the Hawaii's politics and economy. Now let's talk about textile fibers, where today we'll just be talking about silk, and on the next episode we'll talk about cotton. So human body hair is far from being as dense as the insulating fur of animals, requiring many materials to help protect humans against the cold. Silk originated in China and is an integral part of Chinese civilization. Along lacquer, jade, and rice, silk was a representative of early Chinese material culture and later became one of China's primary exports along with tea and porcelain. In 1926, archaeologists unearthed a cut silkworm cocoon at the Yangshao culture site which was around 3500 BCE in Xia County, Shanxi, showing how early silk was used in Chinese culture. Initially, silk was used for burial garments, signifying the soul's ascent to heaven, embodying the auspicious meaning of transformation and spiritual elevation. Secondly, silk was used for ritual garments worn during ancestor worship, and silk was also used for sacrificial items such as silk books or paintings. During the spring and autumn and warring states period, increased productivity and ideological liberation led to the gradual popularization of silk as a gift. Silk became not only a valuable burial garment, but also a symbol of noble status worn in life, used by the elite and officials for ceremonial attire such as official robes. Now let's talk about the development of the silk industry globally. Silk trade has existed since ancient times, and even before the Han Dynasty opened the Silk Road, silk was already being exported as a luxury commodity to various parts of the Eurasian continent. Archaeologists discovered silk in a tomb in the Valley of Kings in Egypt, dating back to 1070 BCE. During the Western Han Dynasty in the 2nd century BCE, the Chinese established the overland Silk Road starting from Chang'an, which traversed the Pamir Mountains and facilitated trade through a relay system all the way to the Mediterranean. Successive Chinese dynasties tightly controlled sericulture and silk weaving technologies, prohibiting their transmission to foreign countries. However, around 200 BCE, immigrants from China taught sericulture to the Korean peninsula, and the technology spread westward through multiple channels, reaching India around 300 CE. As the Arabs expanded their empire, they brought sericulture and silk weavings to Africa, Spain, Sicily, and developed significant silk weaving centers. Nevertheless, during the Tang Dynasty, China significantly increased its silk production capacity, becoming the world's major silk supplier. By the Song Dynasty, China had developed large-scale industrial silk manufacturing capabilities, enabling low-cost and high-output production that was exported in large quantities to Europe and the Near East via the overland and maritime silk roads. The Crusades facilitated the transfer of silk technology from the Arabs, Italians, and Byzantines to Western Europe, and as a result of the Crusades, the silk centers within the Byzantine Empire gradually declined, and many skilled weavers migrated to Italy and southern France. Overall, the global silk industry evolved through a complex historical interactions involving trade, technological transfer, and geopolitical changes, culminating in a diversified and widespread production network that spans several continents. The high cost of raw materials and production made Italian silk expensive in Europe, making it difficult to meet France's clothing demands. Consequently, France aimed to produce lighter and cheaper silk textiles, and in 1466, King Louis XI began developing the national silk industry in Lyon to reduce the trade deficit with Italian city-states, which caused a net outflow of over 400,000 gold écus. The British silk industry emerged in the 1860s, where the Edict of Nantes was revoked, leading many French Huguenots to immigrate to Britain to escape religious persecution. Among them were experts in sericulture and silk weaving. However, the relatively cold and damp climate in Britain hindered the expansion of silk production. As early as 1522, Europeans had introduced the silk industry to Mexico. Various attempts were made to develop a silk industry in British North American colonies, but the industry never reached significant scale in the Americas. Despite global knowledge and the practice of sericulture and silk weaving before the Industrial Revolution, limited technological capabilities and an industry scale meant China remained the primary exporter of silk and raw silk, which is widely demanded due to its high quality and affordability. The First Industrial Revolution drastically changed global production dynamics. Innovations in cotton spinning technology made cotton textiles increasingly affordable, diminishing the dominance of expensive silk. In 1884, Count Hilaire de Chardonnay invented artificial silk known as viscose and established a factory in 1891. Artificial silk reduced cost and partially satisfied market demand for silk. After World War I, Japan adopted modern sericulture techniques, significantly lowering raw material costs and becoming the world's largest silk producer, fulfilling Europe's silk needs and leading to the decline of the silk industries in France and Italy. During World War II, Western countries cut off imports of Japanese raw silk and silk, reducing the use of synthetic fibers like nylon. Now let's talk about the Ming Dynasty raw silk and silk trade. By the 10th century CE, sericulture and silk weaving technologies had spread widely across Eurasia, no longer being guarded secrets. However, compared to silk weaving techniques, the key competitive factors in the silk industry during periods of frequent warfare, mulberry pestilence, silkworm disease, and variable weather conditions were the efficient, large-scale, stable production of low-cost, high-quality raw silk. The Ming Dynasty mandated farmers with 5 to 10 mu, or approximately 0.3 to 0.67 hectares of land, must plant half a mu of mulberry trees to help facilitate the production of silk. The mid to late Ming Dynasty coincided with the age of exploration, during which eastwards trade flourished and large quantities of silvers were produced in mines in Americas and Japan. As previously mentioned, after Spain occupied Manila in the Philippines, silver was transported from the Americas across the Pacific to Manila, where it was used by Chinese to purchase raw silk, silk fabrics, tea, and other Chinese goods. From 1560 to 1600, Japan exported between 33,750 and 45,750 kilograms of silver annually. By the early 17th century, annual exports had reached 150,000 to 187,500 kilograms, and from 1650 to 1625, annual exports were 130,000 to 160,000 kilograms, accounting for about 25% to 30% of the world's total silver production at the time. Meanwhile, Japanese consumers had a high demand for Chinese raw silk and silk products. For example, Japanese ceremonial and social attire was often made of silk, and according to a market report dated September 15, 1622, written by the head of the Dutch trading post in Hirado, Japan, to the board of the Dutch East India Company, Chinese raw silk and silk threads accounted for 2/3 of the value of Chinese goods sold in Japan. Overall, the Ming Dynasty's focus on sericulture and the resulting increase in silk production, combined with the strong demand for silk in international markets, particularly in Japan, made Chinese raw silk and silk fabrics significant commodities in global trade during this period. The enormous purchasing power and strong demand from Japan led to China's robust raw silk and silk production. However, during the Ming Dynasty, Chinese coastal areas were frequently attacked by Japanese pirates, especially during the Jiajing period, leading the Ming Dynasty to prohibit trade with Japan. In 1557, the Portuguese secured a long-term lease of Macau, and since Portugal was not bound by the Sino-Japanese trade ban, they purchased large quantities of Chinese raw silk and silk products and sold them to Japan, earning substantial profits. In the early 17th century, the Dutch arrived in Hirado, Japan, and repeatedly attempted to establish a base similar to Macau along the southeast coast of China and obtain trading rights from the Chinese government. Most of the smuggled Chinese products acquired by the Dutch in Taiwan were sold in nearby Japan for quick, substantial profits, while a smaller portion was sold to Batavia and Europe. Despite these challenges, the trade activities by the Portuguese and Dutch during the Ming Dynasty highlight the high demand and significant value of Chinese raw silk and silk products in the global trade. These activities underscore China's crucial role in the global silk industry during this period. Before the Portuguese and Dutch initiated Sino-Japanese trade, Chinese coastal merchants were already defying the Ming Dynasty's ban on exporting raw silk and silk to Japan, Manila, Thailand, and other regions. From 1573 to 1620, the influence of Chinese pirate commercial groups grew so strong that Chinese government could no longer effectively enforce anti-smuggling methods. In 1636, Japan banned its citizens from engaging in overseas trade, and from 1639, it prohibited Portuguese merchants from trading in Japan, leading to a significant increase in Chinese merchant trade. By the 1640s, Chinese merchant ships were unified under the trade group centered around Zheng Zilong and his son Zheng Chonggong. And over a span of more than a century, Chinese pirates, along with the Portuguese, Dutch, Spanish, and other foreign traders, frequently used large ships to re-export high-quality and affordable Chinese raw silk and silk products to Japan, Europe, and other regions, gaining significant profits. Silk production regions in China were widespread, with significant government promotion leading to sericulture in climate-suitable areas. The raw silk and silk trade during the Ming Dynasty represented the pinnacle of agricultural production and economics before the Industrial Revolution. The Chinese pirate commercial groups, initially developed through smuggling, established trade bases in China, Japan, Thailand, and other regions through frequent trade, and they developed advanced navigation technologies and formed the Zheng Maritime Group, which dominated the western Pacific coast. So yeah, that's it for silk. On next week's episode, we'll start talking about cotton and continue talking about Chapter 4 and other materials that were traded during this time period. As always, you can purchase the book on Amazon, and if you enjoy these videos, feel free to like and subscribe. Thank you for watching.